Well, hey, Jason, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up? Glad to be here.
Not much. I'm glad that you were able to join us today, and I think this is gonna be a really good interview. I'm really excited to get going with this.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, let's just jump right in and just first I want to ask how you got introduced to sport and yeah, where you started. How old were you at the time when you got introduced to the sport of wrestling?
I started when I was in first grade. I was about six. Just there's a little kids club in my hometown. Not even a club, just like a city rec league.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I didn't really know anything about wrestling. None of my family members ever wrestled, so it was just kind of I got a flyer in my class and told my dad I wanted to wrestle, and he asked if I was sure, and I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. Sounds cool. I didn't know anything about it. Most of my people in my class thought it was going to be like a WWE like
Yeah.
wrestling, so I had no idea. I never watched that growing up, so um, yeah, I signed up, and my first year I was pretty terrible, but I won my city league, so my dad was I had to be like two kids. So I won that, and then he was like, "Well, let's keep wrestling." And I had no idea, but he wrestled in high school, and then I had a bunch of uncles and stuff that wrestled as well. So it was kind of in my family a little bit, but my siblings, I had one brother, and he never wrestled. So for my immediate family, it was kind of I was the first one. But then yeah, I kind of took off. My first year, I was pretty bad. My dad was said I had to get better to be able to go to the state tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of a long year. And then after that, I worked really hard and got really good really fast. So my next couple years, um, I don't know. I was always one of the top kids in the state, like at the like freestyle state tournament and stuff. I always placed, top two or top three. So kind of went from there and just stuck with it. So
Did you love it right away, or did it take you a little while to kind of find that passion? Were you just doing it for the wins, or did you really love the training right away and you loved everything about wrestling?
I think I liked it, and that's kind of why I stuck with it. I spent a lot of hours, with my dad, and I played every other sport growing up. I tried almost every sport besides baseball because I didn't really find an interest in baseball. So I was trying other sports while I did it, and I remember playing basketball one year, and it just I don't know, I wasn't very good, and I didn't really like it. So my dad was like, "Well, let's just go back to wrestling then, I guess, because you like that." So I quit basketball like middle of the season and started wrestling. And I always played soccer too. I still love soccer a lot. I was just better at wrestling. So um, I think the wins help definitely, but just I don't know, the individual um, time that you get for wrestling is different than other sports, and I didn't have to rely on anybody else, and I like that the most. Just you can kind of be as good as you want to be on your own. You don't need anyone else, like a team or a something else to make you better. So yeah, I kind of did that growing up. Used my sister as like a dummy, workout dummy most of the time because I didn't have anyone else to practice
Yeah.
with. And I know a lot of people that have similar stories. So
And you grew up in Utah, correct?
yep, yep. I
So,
was from Utah.
so a fairly decent wrestling state as a whole, but they're not really known for their wrestling success. Did you compete at any other big national tournaments that people like at Tulsa Nationals or anything like that early on, or did you kind
Yeah,
of just stay at Utah for the time?
it was probably my fourth or fifth year of wrestling, so maybe like fourth grade. Um, my dad finally. I went to like Western Regionals, I guess.
Yeah.
Probably my second or third year was kind of my first time going to that. And I didn't do very well my first couple times. And my dad just kind of said, until you get better, we're just going to stay local. So I started going to those tournaments, I would say, in like fourth or fifth grade.
Hmm.
And I did pretty good. I was always placing. I won a couple. I won the Reno World Tournament once, I think, growing up. I took second a couple times. There's always one kid that beat me that was my weight most of the time. I never made it to the Tulsa tournament. Um,
Yeah.
and I mostly wrestled freestyle,
Hmm.
really. In Utah, I feel like the collegiate or the folk style season, we only wrestled probably 3 months out of the year. And it was
Okay.
kind of unique because I thought that was normal. But now that
Right.
I've lived in a lot of other states, I know a lot of kids don't wrestle freestyle at all. You know, in
Yeah.
California and Nebraska, where I've lived, they don't wrestle freestyle. It's folk
Yeah.
style all year long. So that was kind of unique. And I picked up freestyle, I think, a lot better than folk style. And then I wrestled a lot of Greco too.
Okay, so moving on to your high school career, you had a very successful one. You won multiple national tournaments and you won four state titles in Utah, if that's correct.
Yep.
Um, you did you make a jump or was it kind of a gradual, just getting better, getting better, getting better until the time where you were pretty dominant in the state of Utah, and then nationally you were able to have some success?
Yeah. I would say I made a jump probably in about eighth grade. I got a new coach. He coaches in Idaho now, Ivan Delchev. He was my coach for a year in eighth grade, and I actually broke my leg like
Mm,
during the folk style season. So I couldn't wrestle for like 2 or 3 months. And so for
yeah,
freestyle, I was like hungry to get better. And I started
right.
going to his club a lot. And that was my first time I went to kids nationals that summer as a schoolboy, I think was the division.
Mm-hmm.
And I won Greco. I took first in Greco and I took second in freestyle. But that was like, for me, that was like the first true national title I had ever won. So
Right.
it kind of just jump started me and gave me that confidence going into my high school years. And then in high school, I think I just continued to get better. And I don't know, I always went to big tournaments. I lost a lot in freestyle in high school. And it was kind of funny because my local coaches that knew during the folk style season I never lost. And then I'd go to these freestyle tournaments and I was taking losses a lot. And I was wrestling up like as a cadet, I would wrestle juniors a lot. So
Right.
I was wrestling older kids and they couldn't really understand, like, man, why do you lose so much? You never lose during the high school year. And I was like, well, I'm just trying to get better. So I'm wrestling better kids. Like it's a lot more competitive. Um, and in high school, we didn't go. My first couple of years, I think I didn't go to a lot of big tournaments. My high school coach was kind of new and didn't know the tournament schedule. So my freshman year, I probably would have took a lot more losses. I only lost once that year, but I probably would have lost a lot more if I would have went to more competitive tournaments. And then my sophomore year, he made it tougher. We went to like the Reno
Yeah.
TOC and that kind of stuff. So I got a little bit tougher matches. And then, yeah, by my junior and senior year, I was just kind of, I think I was ready to go to college by that point and needed that next level, of competition to get better. So,
So yeah, moving on to your college career, you decided to go to Boise State. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how that recruiting plan, how that worked out, and then why you ended up deciding to go to Boise State, because they're not really known for their wrestling. Throughout the years, they don't have a huge history of great wrestlers and stuff. So I'm interested to hear why you ended up deciding to go there.
yeah, that was, I feel like this is dark, but it's okay.
That's all right.
Um,
It's
yeah,
fine.
so I had a club coach in high school. The club I went to, he went to Boise State. So he kind of introduced me to their coaches and stuff early on. And a lot of our drills and our style of wrestling with my club, that I wrestled probably in my club 8 or 9 months out of the year. And then the 3 or 4 months, the high school season, I was with my high school coach. But it was mostly club wrestling, and our club was really tough. We had, like, Matt Brown was in my club from Penn State. Mitch Moss wrestled at Penn State. Carson Kuhn went to Boise State and transferred to Penn State for a year. There was really, like, a lot of our club wrestlers went to colleges and wrestled at the D1 level. So he introduced me to Boise State. And for me, I always wanted that easy transition for styles in college. And I saw that with those coaches that, they were already doing all the drills that I knew. So I knew, like, I would just continue to get better there and not have to learn a new system, which takes some time. And it was close to home for me. I'm from Utah. There's a lot of mountains there. And just the, like, outdoor living, being out in the woods doing stuff really appealed to me. And the biggest thing for me, I would say the biggest decision factor was I've always wanted to be a part of a program that was, like, on the rise. And it takes something special, at those programs, smaller schools that, have potential, but they're not regularly talked about. And I saw that potential with Boise State, that we had really, really good recruits the year before I was there. So I could see the potential their team had, and I knew they were just going to continue to get better and better. And I wanted to be a part of that and kind of help them grow as a program, and hopefully, like, continue on with their success after I was done. And unfortunately, they dropped their program a couple years ago. But being part of that, I would never, want to go somewhere else, or I've never thought about my college choice and taking another route, because the coaches there just took care of me a lot, and helped me grow up on and off the mat. They spent a lot of individual time with me, and I feel like that helped. We were at a smaller program, so the roster was a little smaller, and the guys that wanted to be in there were hungry to have that success. And now, like, as a coach, I kind of like that challenge of being at a smaller school. Fresno State, we have the potential, I think, to be, a really good program. And I think that's, Steiner always says that's one of the reasons he brought me here as an assistant coach, is I was excited for that challenge at being at a, non-traditional school and making it grow. And that's just my personality. All my pro sports teams, they're not like the best out there, but when they do have success, it's something.
You want to build it,
yeah, it's something special. So
well, that's pretty cool, and it's funny because it reflects on your coaching career. You started with that personality. You can tell that you wanted to build something, and you want to build a tradition when you go to Boise State, and now you're coaching at Fresno State, where they just started their wrestling program, and again, they have a lot of potential, but they're not there yet. And and you're trying to build that, and so that's definitely pretty cool. Okay, so your freshman year, it was pretty successful. You won your conference, and 22-9 record. So freshman year went pretty well. But then
it was comparable to, like, high school, though. It was rough. Being a true freshman, and I lost 2 matches my high school career. So I thought I lost 10 or 11 times, but if I lost 9, I didn't really keep track. But there were stretches in there. I think I lost 3 or 4 matches straight at one point, and kind of had to go through some lumps. And I don't know. I had never done that in my career. So it was hard at times, I think, to keep momentum going through the season.
What did you do that summer? Did you compete in any freestyle events, and how did you bounce back to your sophomore year to have a little bit more of a successful year?
Yeah, so I've never taken like a summer off. The
Right.
college wrestlers that a lot of them now, don't they? I know they're always training and getting better, but I got better by competing, and I've always loved freestyle. So the freestyle and Greco side of things have always been natural for me. So I know my senior year of high school was my first time. Instead of going to Fargo that summer, I wrestled in the UW Junior World Team Trials, and I finished third and beat a lot of good kids, kids that were in high school and in college. It was kind of fun for me to wrestle like college kids in high school, and I was beating some of them. So that kind of, I don't know, mapped out my career. After my freshman year of college, I just kept on working, and it was different because the practice structure was a lot shorter. I know my coaches tried to keep me fresh because that college season's a long year. So my practices were only like 45 minutes sometimes, like in and out. And we'd just drill, whatever we had to work on. And we rarely wrestled live. It was all just developing and getting better and
Hmm.
using my technique. And then that year I took second at the UW Junior Nationals. And then at the World Team Trials, I won the World Team Trials and made the Junior World Team that year. So, and then I went to Turkey and
Hmm.
wrestled in the World Championships. I lost my first match, but to be on that team and I don't know, the experience I think helped me a lot in my career, and then just kind of pushed me right into my sophomore year. Um, and yeah, I think I did a little better my sophomore year than my freshman year. I still wasn't quite there. And one reason I think I was really young um, for my grade in school. So as a true
Right.
freshman, I was only 18. Like I turned 18 the month before school started. So
Okay.
I graduated high school at 17, and then I wrestled as a true freshman. Some of those kids were just really strong. I was wrestling
Hmm.
guys like Bubba Jenkins and Lance
Yeah.
Palmer. Those guys are just like tanks. So
Hmm.
to adjust to the strength, I think took me about 2 years of college. My sophomore year, I still quite wasn't strong enough, I think, to compete with the best guys. And then my junior year, it was like it opened up like, whoa, like all my technique works again because I'm strong enough to hit
Right.
moves that I want to hit. So, um, but the transition from high school to college, I think, was where I kind of had to develop and get better as a wrestler. I know everyone does, but for me, as being like a top recruit coming out of high school, really challenged me to get better at wrestling. So,
Um, and then okay, so you made that junior team.
yep,
And then when was that World Championships in Turkey? What time of year?
it was. I want to say it was like September or August. I don't know. It was
Okay.
right before the college season started.
So
So,
how much did you focus on freestyle that summer, and how much did you have to redo your wrestling before that NCAA season started in November?
I don't think I wrestled any folk style, honestly. it
Really?
was all freestyle. And, and now as a coach, it's like a takedown's a takedown.
Right.
If you're
Right.
wrestling and you're on the mat, like you're getting better. So, um, yeah, I didn't wrestle any folk style until after that World Championships, and then it was like, all right, now we got a month or two to get ready for college. And I was lucky that I was always pretty good, like on bottom. I think a lot of young kids in college struggle on bottom. I think my freshman year, I might have got rode out like once or twice. So um, I was still, I was pretty good on the mat already.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I had some teammates that were incredible on the mat and folk style. So um, that helped me a lot. I didn't have to worry about that. So, And then in tough matches, sometimes I just went neutral.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
knew, like, all right, my freestyle experience, like I can go get a takedown if I need it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I did a lot of freestyle, mainly, in college. I wrestled folk style, and then I took like spring break was right after NCAA's, and then I was right into freestyle. Like right after folk style season, I was just automatically changed over. So that's just kind of what I've always done, and yeah.
Okay, so how much did you have to cram though for the folk style season, or you said you're kind of already there in between September and November when the season started? Did
Mm-hmm.
you do a lot more mat work than you normally did, or did you just all get back into the groove, or what was your mindset
Um,
into that?
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
I probably put some more emphasis on mat work, I would say. But I just jumped into, training with our college guys again. So, which I was doing anyway. So a lot of those guys were right there with me in our program. Guys like Adam Hall, Andrew Hochstrasser, uh, Levi Jones, Kirk Smith. He, they were all wrestling freestyle with me. It wasn't like I was doing it on my own. So um, it was kind of a good thing that we were all in the room. Even if I was, at times I was the only one like competing, they were still in there every day training with me. So, but the mat work, it comes back quick. I don't know. I probably put a lot of emphasis on it, but like I said, Andrew Hochstrasser, I think he's probably the best guy I've ever wrestled on top and bottom. And
Yeah.
like wrestling with him for like a week, I was like, all right, I'm good. If I can
You're
get
ready
out,
to go.
like,
Yeah.
if I can get away from him, like I think I'm okay. So um, I was just kind of fortunate to have teammates like that, and I think that's one of the you know why I went to Boise State. I saw the team they had, and then the coaches and the time and effort they put in with their guys. Now I don't know. It's just they they came in and they loved it. I had
Right.
my assistant coach would come in every day and just like he'd be like, "Oh, I was thinking about something last night right before I went to bed, and I was thinking this move that like some Russian guy hits would be really good for you, and we're gonna practice it today." And it was like, this is what you think about before you go to bed. Like,
Yeah.
there's not very many people I think that do that. So, um, yeah, it was a good experience, and um, yeah, I made the junior world team that year, and then my sophomore year, I was still young enough to be on the UW junior. Back then, it was FILA junior, but
Right.
so I made another world team the next year and actually did better. I took fifth at the world championships my second year as a UW junior.
So that's a pretty big jump from going 0-1 your first year at juniors,
Yeah, and I
and
went
then
0 and
to
1, but I lost to a guy from Japan. He made it to the quarters. No, he lost in the quarters. I had Russia, Iran, and Japan all on my side of the bracket.
oh
I
wow.
knew like if I lose this guy, I'm probably out. And he
Oh
lost the Russian, I think. But then he made it to the third place match, the guy I lost to, and then he was winning the match and shot like a low single and hit his head right on the temple on the guy's knee, and he
oh man.
he got knocked out, and they just called the match like you're done. So I it's like, yeah, I went 0 and 1, but I lost to the guy that probably was the third best guy at my weight. So
Yeah.
it's deceiving in freestyle,
Okay. Yeah,
where you get put out of the bracket,
their
but
brackets are weird for sure.
yeah. But then, yeah, the next year I took fifth. I lost a controversial third place match where I wrestled a guy from Belarus, and we were in Hungary at the time, which is neighboring countries. And
Right.
there was a couple calls that match where were kind of blatantly wrong, and I don't know, the whole arena was cheering for the guy. So
Yeah, that's
I don't know. I was pretty upset that I took fifth, but um, it's still like fifth in the world. I didn't even think about it, but I was like, oh, fifth in the world's not bad.
yeah,
So
definitely not. Um, and then after that event, in
yeah,
World Championships, I imagine that was September too, or around
yeah,
that area. Um,
it's usually about that time of year.
yeah. So you went into your um college season, and that was the first year you All American. You took third, right?
Yep, yep. That was that was probably my biggest jump in college, for sure.
What would you credit that to? Why do you think you made that jump?
I tell our guys now, it wasn't that my skills got any better, but the way I thought about wrestling and approaching every single match with the mindset of these are my attacks. This is what I want to get to. And if I get to my positions, I'm going to win this match. Before, I would just go out and wrestle. So, like, if a guy was a right leg lead, I didn't even notice usually. It was just like, whatever's there, I'm going to hit. I'm going to shoot a
Right.
single, or I'm going to ankle pick, or I'm going to like headlock this kid. I didn't know. I just went out with nothing in my mind. And then my junior year was really, I read an article by Steve Frazier that was like the best wrestlers out there have their number one move and their go-to attack. Like, and everyone knows, like Cael Sanderson, ankle pick.
And you go ankle pick.
George
Yeah.
Jordan Burroughs double leg, and everyone knows about it, and you still can't stop it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I started thinking with that mindset of like, oh, what's my best attacks? Where do I want to wrestle in? And so I kind of figured that out. And then the next year, it was like every single match I won, I got to one or two attacks that were the same exact thing. And the wrestlers in my conference and the wrestlers I wrestled a lot, like their coaches knew like the positions I wanted to be in, but I would still get it and score. So
Right.
that was
Yeah.
the biggest thing for me is I knew like I want to get I'm going to score here, here, and here instead of just like going out and trying 50 different
Yeah.
things. So,
Um, how much visualization did you do leading up to your matches, just at night in bed when you can't fall asleep? Because I know some people say that was huge for them, and then some guys like Jaden Cox says he doesn't do that and he doesn't like it. What's your attitude towards that visualization?
yeah,
And
I
did you
think
do that at all that junior year?
honestly, probably not.
Mm.
I got married that year, and shoot, I don't know. It was kind of like I had um, I've always had that balance between like wrestling and the rest of your life, and you have to balance like if you focus on wrestling all day, it's going to wear
Mm-hmm.
you out. When
Right.
you're in the room and you're in practice, you got to be fresh and like excited to be there. So most of the times when I wasn't in practice, I watched film and I prepared for matches, but I don't know and I did visualize. Everyone does, even not even thinking about it. I'd be in
Right.
class and I'd drift off, and then like I'd flinch in my chair, and somebody would be like, "What is that?" And I was like, "Oh, sorry, I was just thinking about wrestling."
Yeah.
So I did it, and I think I visualized a lot more like in high school. My high school coach was really good about visualization, and like he'd put us through it, where he turned out the lights in the wrestling room and had us lay on the mat and kind of like broke down a match, like, all right, whistle blows, imagine the crowd, and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And that was good for me to kind of get used to doing that. But I think there needs to be a balance between, I don't, there's times in my career I've been burned out, but the biggest thing for me is I love wrestling, and I love to like kind of innovate new things and work on new technique. And so I'm always kind of trying to push being excited and wanting to learn more. So Sometimes I would go home and, my just like not even think about wrestling until the next day when I was at
Yeah.
practice again. So, um, but definitely visualization is big. Jaden probably visualizes without thinking about it, I
Not
would
think about it.
say.
Yeah.
But it is good to stay
Hmm.
fresh and keep your mind off of wrestling when you don't need to. So you got to have balance.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that makes a lot of sense to me. Um, so moving on to your senior year, you made the decision to redshirt that year. What went into that
Yep.
decision, and why do you think you made that decision your senior year?
Um, Honestly, I didn't want to at first. My college coaches talked to me about that idea, and it was the Olympic year. And now you see a lot of guys like this year are going to take an Olympic redshirt year.
Redshirt, yeah.
And at first, that's what they wanted me to do. But I was married at the time. I had my first daughter, which is, kind of, um, I don't know, different than most college kids,
Rare, yeah.
Yeah, and my wife was working full time. And between my financial aid and my scholarship money and like all of that stuff, that's how I was paying bills. And so without that, like if you Olympic redshirt year, I don't think you're enrolled in school. Like if you're enrolled, you're burning a year. So
Hmm.
um, that's I just decided like, all right, I'll just regular redshirt and just go in school and I'll redshirt. But that whole year, I was kind of removed from our or our college program. I would say I worked out a ton with like Andrew Hochstrasser had just graduated. He was wrestling on the senior level. And it's funny, Ivan Delchev, the guy that I mentioned before,
Right.
he had a club in Boise actually. He
Okay.
coached me when I was younger in 8th grade, and then he left like in I don't know, had trouble with his visa or something in Bulgaria and couldn't get back in the country. And then when I was in college, he started a club back in Boise after he got back into the country. So I started going to his club a lot again and training with him and kind of being in his program and just redshirted. I didn't want a redshirt. I thought I was
Hmm.
good enough to win a national title that year. And I told the coaches that like last year I took third. I lost to Frank Molinaro in the semis, which he's tough. And that was the year he won a national title. But I wanted to wrestle. Like I told the coaches, like, no, like I'm good enough to win a national title now. Like I don't want a red shirt. And I think there's a couple other guys on our team that were just older than me that fell short. They were national finalists. Kirk Smith took second, um, and Andrew Hochstrasser took second the year before. And I think that was a lot on their mind of like, let's make sure you're like the most prepared you can be before you use your last year of eligibility, because they were like, we want you to win a national title. So they were like, you're going to get a year better. We're going to have you go to all the senior level competitions, wrestle freestyle, wrestle against, some of the best guys out there because it's the Olympic year. And then your senior year, you're going to be more than ready to win a national title. So it was more of like a developmental year and a transition year from like college to freestyle after my junior year. So
Okay.
I wrestled all freestyle that year. Trained with at the Suples Club. Ivan Ivanov was there, and then Ivan Delchev, and they coached me all of that year. And I went to like the U.S. Open qualifier, or I don't know, some qualifier in Vegas. I went to the Dave Schultz tournament that year. I wrestled in the Olympic trials, and then that summer I made the University World Team.
And you beat Frank Molinaro
Yeah, in the
in the
finals.
trials. Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, that was like a big step in my career of I went to University Nationals. I beat Kellen Russell at that tournament, which was big. He just won 2 national titles. So, and then, I beat Frank in the finals of the trials. So, going into my senior year, I knew I'm ready to wrestle and compete for a national title. Almost too much, I think. I thought I was gonna kind of be easy that year. So, and
Yeah.
it wasn't. Like I got put in the check because I lost to Scott Sakaguchi, who I beat him 8 times prior to when I wrestled him, or like 6 times maybe before going into my senior year. I was like, I beat this guy 6 times, and then my first dual meet of the season, I lost to him. So I was like, oh, it's still going to be hard this season. These guys are still getting better. I still gotta train and be ready to wrestle. So, but that was good. Then one of my coaches is like, hey, it's your senior year. I know you want to be a national champ, whatever, but he's like, it's November. This is a great time to lose a match. I'd rather have you lose now than in March. So,
Yeah.
It was good. And actually, like at the Olympic trials, I wrestled like Kerry Colott my first match. I actually beat him, which he had a comeback year that year. He took second, I think, the year before at the U.S. Open or the World Team Trials, and he was the 3 seed at the Olympic trials. And I beat him my first match, and then I went 2-2. I broke my nose against him. I have a scar right here now where it like busted open, and
Oh man.
I'm pretty sure I was concussed, and I had 2 black eyes, and I don't remember like anything of that trip after after it happened. So, but to be able to say like I beat a guy like that, he's a legend in our sport. He was like that was his last match, so that's pretty cool to be able to say that. The guys that you respect completely and be able to compete against them was big for my junior year. So
Yeah. Okay, so that year you made it pretty far. Wrestled Jordan Oliver in the finals that year, right?
yep.
And then you lost that match. Um, what was that? What was that like? Did you take that loss really tough, or were you able to bounce back pretty quickly?
Yeah, I took it. Yeah, it was hard. National finals. The way the match went, really, it was the way I lost. Everyone knows he does that little shrug, slide by. I knew he did it the whole match. I'd collar tie that side. He would over tie, and then I would just clear my tie and retie and just stay out of there because I didn't want to be in it. And then towards the end of the match, in my mind, I was like, I just got to go score. Like I'm tired of kind of being cautious. I wasn't attacking a whole lot in the match. I was being conservative, and I knew like in my mind, like to win this match, I just got to go score. And so I tied up, and I have like a little swim high crotch from when a guy over ties me. And I just, for some reason, I was like, if I pressure into him and he pressures back, that shot's going to be there. And I kind of felt it before. And right when I pressured in, he hit that shrug, and I was I was like kicking myself, like I made my own mistake, and so for me, it's always tough taking a loss, but for me, it was like I beat myself. Like, yeah, he beat me, but it was on my own mistake. And if it was different, like, I don't know, I just knew like if I would have just lost like any other way, even if I got like destroyed, like it's like, hey, like it's different. Like I know like you're just better that day. But for me, I knew, I don't know. I feel like I just made that one mistake, and it was hard. And you can ask my wife. Like I didn't want to talk about it for months, but I kept on bringing it up. Like when we were alone, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just I'm so mad about this stuff. She's like, I thought you didn't want to talk about it. I was like, I don't want to talk about it. So,
That's fun.
and I don't know, I went back in the back room, and both, it was kind of unique because both my college coaches were NCAA finalists, and they both took second. So for me, I was just sitting there, and they were just like kind of sitting there with me. And I looked up, and I was like, "Am I gonna feel this way? Does this ever go away, or am I always gonna feel
Yeah.
this way?" And they were like, "Oh no, you'll feel like this forever. Like it never goes away." I was like,
Oh man.
"Oh man!" Like it just, like, for me, I was like, "Oh." But now, I could see as a coach that kind of drove them to get their athletes to be successful where they were short. They fell short in their career and what they wanted to accomplish. So I think they have a big pride of like having their athletes. They had 2 national champs at Boise State. And I know, like, for them, it's like they accomplished something they helped somebody do what they didn't do in their career. And
Right.
that's, as a coach now, like, I can say, like, I've been in that, I've experienced it, and I want to help guys, get past where I was. So, like, this last year, having an All-American, it was awesome. The
Mhm.
feeling of like having somebody accomplish something that you did, is it's awesome, and have like their emotions tied into yours. It's really unique. So, um, yeah, it was hard. And that year, I went right into the US Open and the World Team Trials, and I lost to Jordan Oliver at both those events. And I don't know, it probably took me a year or two to like kind of get past that and just start wrestling again. So,
And
um,
you grew a little bit after that too. Kind of moved away from Jordan Oliver.
yeah, a little bit. I don't know. I've wrestled him, 3 or 4 times. I
Yeah.
actually beat him to make my second junior world team. So I
Ah.
I beat him like
Okay.
in the world team trials.
That year that you took fifth.
Yeah, the year
Okay.
I took fifth, and he
Okay.
took, I think, third. He lost to Asgaroff, um,
Oh.
from Azerbaijan
Yeah.
in the semis of the World Championships. Our first year on the world team, because he
And
was he was at 60 kilos, I was at 66, and he took third, and I went 0-1. And then the next year he was cutting down to be 60, and then I think it was like the night before somebody was like, "Oh, Jordan Oliver's going up a weight, like he can't make it." And I was like, all right, I guess I'm gonna wrestle him. So I wrestled
yeah.
him the next day, and I beat him. It was when we had like the leg clinch. If it was
Mhm.
0-0, I think I beat him on 2 leg clinches. So I beat him, but it was like, to me, it's like I didn't score on him. I just got the ball grab. So,
Right.
it was one of those matches. And then,
Man, I'm glad we're away from that now.
yeah, the sport. I think that the rules of freestyle now are probably the best they've been in a while, because that
Yeah.
stuff was like just I don't know, like chance.
Yeah. I don't know.
Chris Perry is a bronze medalist of the Junior World Championships that year when I took fifth,
Mhm.
and I think he won a ball grab or 2 ball grabs almost every match. He was like, "I'm on a roll. I'm getting lucky. I'm just gonna keep getting ball grabs." And the whole tournament, I don't think he lost a single one. He was like 10-0 at
Oh
pulling out
my.
his ball. So he's like, "Yep, I'm feeling lucky today." So he's
Holy
like,
moly.
"Why would I go score when I can just get the ball grab?" So,
And
um, but
college.
yeah, I did grow. I moved on a little bit.
Yeah.
After Boise State, I went to Nebraska and trained there, with Burroughs, and James Green was still in college, but he was probably my main workout partner when I was there. And I grew a lot, and working with Brian Snyder, it was kind of unique because he's
Yeah.
from Easton, Pennsylvania, where Oliver's from. So, um, I don't know, kind of had that connection a little bit
Yeah.
with Oliver. And it's funny because I've known Oliver since, like, I don't know, my freshman year of high school or sophomore year of high school,
Really?
and like we
How's
were
that?
like we were really good friends. Like so, it was kind of weird that
Where did y'all see each other?
at that Reno tournament.
Oh
So
wow.
at the
So
Reno TOC, he was like 103 or 112, and he like tech falled his way through the tournament. And I lost my first match to somebody I didn't know. I was the 2 seed and lost my first match, but then I won 9 matches straight in the backside and
oh
took
my.
third place. And I wrestled his teammate, I think, for third. And his guy had beat a really tough guy earlier, like the week before, and the kid was pretty good. And I like crushed him. I think I majored him. Um,
Mhm.
and so Oliver came over to me like after the tournament. He's like, "Dude, you're tough, man. Like, what's your name? Like, I gotta like get to know you." And so after that, like every tournament we were at, like I'd say hi, and he'd say hi, and like I don't know, we just had that kind of friendship for wrestlers because I respected him a lot. He was always one of the best in high school. Um, and then I don't know, our senior year we were on the Dapper Dan or the Pittsburgh Classic team. We were on.
Right.
He was on Pennsylvania. I was on the Team USA, and then we were on the Dream Team together too. Later, that year. So yeah, we'd known each other a lot. So it was, I don't know, it was kind of hard because like I like him, but like
Yeah.
he's awesome. Super nice guy. Um, but when you're wrestling and competing, it's different. So yeah.
So you spent 4 years at Nebraska coaching.
Yeah, it was 3. So
Three.
I
Okay.
graduated in 2013, and then I moved out there that summer, and then I was there through the 2016 Olympic trials.
And then did you move from Nebraska to Fresno?
Yep. That
Okay.
was my next move from there.
So how did that come about? Did Troy or is it Troy or Terry? I get them mixed up. It's
It's
Troy.
Troy. Yeah,
Okay.
Terry's the
Okay.
women's national team
Yeah,
coach.
that's what I
Yeah.
thought, but
So
I can never get them
Troy's
straight.
coaching here, which is actually interesting. He beat Chris Owens in the national finals, which Chris Owens was one of my college coaches.
Oh,
So
really?
I grew up like in Boise State. I knew like Chris Owens did not like Troy Steiner that much,
Right.
just
Right.
because of that history. And
Mhm.
now being on the other side of it and coaching with Troy is kind of funny to think about, just
That
because
is
of the situation.
that is weird.
So,
Um,
but that was kind of why I think I'm here. Is we wrestled Oregon State a lot. Um, Boise State and Oregon State were like our main. It was a rivalry when I was in college, and we did a home and home against them every single year to kind of create that atmosphere with our fan bases. Um, so I wrestled Oregon State guys probably 3 or 4 times a year. Um, and some of their guys were their best guys on the team that I was competing against. So Heinrich Barnes, with my freshman year, he was an All-American that year. Sorry, somebody is
you're good.
flashing the light at me. So my freshman year, I wrestled Heinrich Barnes. He was an All-American that year, and I
Mhm.
beat him for the conference championships. But he beat me twice that year, and he was one of their best guys, I would say, on their team.
Mhm.
And then my sophomore year, I beat RJ Pena from Oregon State, and he became an All-American a couple years later. And then my junior and senior year, I wrestled Scott Sakaguchi. He's a 2-time All-American. So they had some stiff competition, and I beat their guys a lot, like a lot. So when I called Steiner to get the job here, like just to kind of look into it, he
Mhm.
was like, "Man, you've been beating me my whole coaching career. Like, it'd be nice to actually have you on my side for once."
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that respect factor of like, I know
Mhm.
you're good, so it'd be nice to work with you. So that helped me a lot to get here, I think. And now while I'm here, our staff is really good. So
Um, so why do you think you wanted to make that move out of Nebraska and into a more stable coaching job higher up, I guess?
Yeah, just tough. I'm married. I have two kids now. I've got two daughters. Um, and to live off of a RTC check every
Yeah.
month is with no benefits. And I don't know. I've always wanted to be a coach, and that's just it was kind of I felt like my time in my career to get into it. And so I saw the opportunity. I've always wanted to coach out in the West Coast somewhere,
Mhm.
just because I want to help wrestling out in the West. I'm from Utah, which is not like West Coast, but still West,
It's
And
West, yeah.
then and I just knew, like, when I was in college, when I started college, Oregon just dropped their program.
Yeah.
And then while I was in college, the Pac-10 started with 9 programs when I was in college, and we ended with 6 by the time I graduated. So
Ouch.
Portland State dropped, Fullerton dropped, and UC Davis. And then Bakersfield was talking about dropping, and they didn't. But and then Arizona State actually dropped for like a week. I could just tell, like, the wrestling was like struggling, like, and I didn't understand it because there's so much talent in the West. And
Right.
I knew, like, in my career, I've always wanted to help the programs in the West, and so that's just kind of what I wanted to do, and I looked at Fresno State as the best opportunity to really start my coaching career and learn everything about it by building a roster from scratch and having a team. We've built everything we've got here. Our first year, we had to recruit and sign like 20 athletes, so there's not any other better stepping stones as a coach to learn from the ground up. And we've all
And
kind of done it together, our other coaches, and it's been a really great experience. And I think that I'm more than prepared to continue to grow as a coach. And you never know what's going to happen with positions and jobs and stuff, but I've learned a lot here, and I'm ready to continue just building my resume.
and you've already had your first All American with
Yep.
Hokett, and you've got your first big recruit. Jace Luchow is there.
Yep.
Um, so that program is definitely on the rise, and I'm excited to see what you guys have in the future. Um, okay, so I kind of want to get into your future of your competition schedule.
Yeah.
So you're kind of a tweener for the weight classes for freestyle. You're 70 kilos.
Yep.
Um, so you're right in between a weight cut to 65 would be really hard, and
Yeah.
then
I'm not.
bumping up to 74 would
Yeah.
be hard as well. Big guys in there like possibly Dake and Imar and Burrows is very big too. So you're
Yeah.
you're in a tough spot there. How do you feel? What are your plans looking forward?
Yeah. So I like the last probably 4 or 5 years, I think my wife has really been trying to get me to, I don't know, make some changes. And I just 65 is not an option. I made it for 3 years when I was training in Nebraska, and it was really hard. And I think I told them the last probably year or two when I was there, like, I don't want to make this weight anymore. it just
Yeah,
it got too hard. I was just doing extreme things to make weight, and it wasn't healthy. There's a few times my wife was pretty worried about me making weight, and she told me after the 2016 Olympic trials, like, you're done. Like, you're done at this weight class. If you want to keep competing, you got to go up, just for the betterment of our family and your health. And I always think, like, that probably took maybe a couple years off of my wrestling career, just because I don't know, it just made the sport not fun for me. I was always trying to lose weight and not get better at wrestling. And that's, where I don't think I developed a little bit and got better. I know I did, but for the most part, I was just trying to like cut weight all the time. And for me in my career, I've never cut very much weight at all, like ever. So um, it was definitely a change for me, and I didn't want to do it anymore. So the natural going up to 70 was probably my best option once I got out here, and it was really easy to make my first few times. And I've kind of grown into the weight a little bit, but I'm still, I've always made weight pretty easy. But 74, I've trained with all those guys at the Olympic Training Center, and just felt them, and the strength that they have is really hard for me to deal with. Kind of makes me feel like a freshman in college again, wrestling like
Yeah.
those big guys. So um, I I have a huge background in Greco when I was growing up, and
I
you
mean,
know,
you said you won nationals when you were in eighth grade in Greco
yeah.
and took
Well,
second.
I always placed top three. In Fargo, I always All American. I took second as a junior. My first year junior, I took second at Fargo. Lost a close one in the finals. And you know, my coaches growing up, I have Ivanov coached me for 3 or 4 years, and then I had Ahad. He's the RTC coach at Cornell now. I
Okay.
can't say his last name. He's Iranian though. He's a Greco only guy. He coached me for a year or two, and then after that, I had Mark Fuller coached me for 2 years. He was a four-time Olympian back in the day when they had that little tiny weight class. Um, he's and he weighed like 105 pounds, and I was in like seventh, eighth grade, and so he was like the perfect size to be like a workout partner, and I worked out with
Yeah.
him almost every day. Um, and to have those coaches now, like my wife has been trying to get me to switch to Greco probably like the last 3 years. She's been just telling me like, why don't you just try it? Like go to the NYAC or go to Dave Schultz or something and just wrestle Greco, like just to do it. um and I haven't, but 67 kilograms for me, it's going to be hard to make, I think, but it's definitely doable, and that's something that it's going to be best for my body and my career, I think, to switch over to Greco. We'll see how this year goes. I went to the Olympic Training Center last week and trained for a week with their coaches and athletes, and felt like I did, just fine. There's a Danish team there. I think it was their national team, but there's a lot of young guys training with them, and um, no, I was doing really well, So kind of just makes me excited about wrestling again, to do a
Yeah.
different. It's like changing sports almost, and I have all this knowledge that I picked up when I was younger, and some of it I kind of forgot, but going to the Olympic Training Center for a week and working with their coaches and stuff, it kind of brought a bunch of that stuff back, and now I don't know, I feel pretty good about it, and that's kind of my plan for this year. After this, if I do well, I think I might just stay with Greco, honestly, for my career. I only have probably a couple years left um, until I just go coaching full time. And then, for some reason, if it doesn't go well this year, I can always go back to freestyle, 70 kilos. That's just something I'll have to think about after this year. But for this year, definitely, I'm gonna wrestle Greco and just give it a shot. My first tournament will be the U.S. Open. I think that's what it's called, in December in
Yep.
Texas. So I'll be competing there, and then hopefully get qualified for the trials and just go from there.
What are your goals? Are you hoping to be Olympic champion Greco this year? Is the weight qualified? 67 isn't qualified, is it?
No, I don't. I
Is
don't
it?
know if we have any weights qualified.
Yeah,
I don't really know.
I
I'm
think
not.
I think the lightest one is qualified. Max Nari, I think got it. He
Oh,
took
right.
fifth.
Okay.
But I think you're right. I think that's it.
Yeah.
So that'll have to be qualified.
Yeah. I know the coaches, the Greco coaches, have been really vocal the last few years about trying to get guys to switch over, and especially like college guys coming out of college to try to give Greco a shot. And they kind of look for guys with Greco backgrounds.
Hmm.
But for some reason, I got like lost in the shuffle or something. So, and I'm
Yeah.
kind of older. So now I was at the training center, and a lot of the guys were like looking at me, especially like the Danish guys, because they were all like, 20, 22, like young kids. And they were like, "How old are you?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm 29." And they were like, "Oh," and then I was like, "But I haven't wrestled Greco in 10 years." So they were like, "Oh, okay." I was like, I'm a freestyle guy. So,
Yeah.
um, but like I said, it's um, talking to like I talked to Coach Mayhab, Gary Mayhab, and kind of he didn't know my background with Greco, so I kind of told him who my coaches were growing up, and he was like, "How did you ever stop wrestling Greco? Like, what? Like, how did we lose you?
Yeah.
You should have never stopped." And I was like, "Well, that's what my wife keeps telling me, but it's just kind of." I don't know. I've always loved freestyle. I've always um, competed well in it, and it's just easier when you're in college to stick with freestyle, just because it's
Right.
similar to folk style. Um, and
I mean,
that's honestly, that's I don't know. I feel like that's most of American wrestlers. That's kind of their goal. There's not very many guys out there that are like, I'm gonna go all Greco all the time, because there's not. I don't know. It's just different.
well,
So
yeah, we're a leg grabbing country. Our
yeah,
high school pinnacle is folk style leg grabbing, and same for college. You want to be an
yeah,
NCAA
but
champion,
but
you
I
wrestle
tell you,
for
like the best, my freestyle skills are all Greco based. So I
yeah,
do a lot of underhooks, a lot of 2-on-1s, a lot of like just the stuff that like I can tell most like our college guys, they feel so uncomfortable when they wrestle me, just because I force positions that they're not used to being in. So I think for like developmental purposes, Greco is huge to get that experience and learn to use your hips and your body in a different way is only going to help you get better.
hmm,
So as like an advocate to Greco, uh, I don't see anything wrong with it. If you can pick it up and get good at it and have coaches teaching you the right way. Like Ivanov used to say, he used to get mad at us, like if we didn't use our Greco skills in folk style. He's like, we train all day long, we do all these throws and all this stuff, and then you guys don't use it when you wrestle in high school. And everyone
yeah,
was like, "Well, coach, they're gonna grab our legs and blah blah blah." And he would say, "Okay, let's wrestle right now. I will only wrestle Greco. I can't grab your legs, and you can do whatever you want, like wrestle freestyle, wrestle folk style." And he would just like throw our guys around. And he's like, "See, like you don't have to use the legs, like use your skills." So he was like really pushing us to use our Greco skills in the other styles. And yeah, like I said, it's helped a lot in my career. And maybe I should have switched over earlier. I don't know. I've always been chasing the freestyle success, but I think right now too, our Greco program, not that they need help, but they need like new guys in it.
hmm,
There's only that small group. If you don't go to that Northern Michigan USOEC program, or go straight from high school to the training center, I think some of those guys kind of get lost in the shuffle a little bit. So I'm excited to just get back in it and see what I can do.
Do you plan to stay training at the Valley RTC in Fresno State, or move over to Northern Michigan or the OTC, or
Well,
is it going to be like a temporary? You'll go over there for a week and train or something like that.
yeah, I'll have to travel more often to go train at these other places, but Fresno State's still going to be my home base, and I'm on staff here, so coaching the college guys and developing them is always going to be one of my top priorities, and then but we have Greco guys in our room too, like
Okay.
Jace Lukow. He's really good in
Oh
Greco.
yeah, he
He's
is.
always done really well at Fargo. And then Kyle Parko's here too. And he won Fargo last summer, and I think he's going to be training to make a world team here this summer in Greco. So he's from the De La Salle Mark Halverson like CYC or yeah
Mm,
CYC program. So he was teammates in high school with like Peyton Omania. So
okay.
um, he's got a huge Greco background. So I'm gonna continue to train with them while I'm here, and they're both redshirting this year. So they're gonna kind of have that freedom and time to kind of come in and get some extra workouts with me, and then I'll when I have time, I'll make it to the training center as much as possible, and maybe Northern Michigan, um, and then in the meantime, I'll keep in touch with the coaches there at the training center and just kind of check in. I know Coach Mayhab did a really good job of like mapping out kind of a training schedule for me and things that I need to be doing every day, even if I'm not there. So I know I'm gonna keep in touch with him as much as possible and just kind of pick his brain because that
Hmm.
guy loves wrestling. I can tell like he spends so much time like filming and watching different guys from all over the world and like taking notes. And I don't know. I think I'm gonna keep working with him as much as possible. And yeah, like I said, I'm gonna have to travel more, but that shouldn't be an issue, um, especially after this. During the college season's tough, but after that's over, I'll have the freedom to move around a lot more and just train in different places as much as possible.
I imagine it's gonna be a little bit weirder this season because the NCAAs are in March, and then like 2 weeks after is the Olympic team trial. So I bet it's
Yeah,
gonna be a
it
little bit
is.
weird.
Yeah, and I'm really bad at like mapping out months in advance. So
Yeah.
there's a lot that I haven't really thought about, but right now I'm just like gonna get ready for that tournament in December and go from there. So that's kind of my first priority.
All right, Jason. Thanks so much for giving your time to this interview, and best of luck for your Greco career.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on, and you're a pretty good interviewer. So
Well, thank you. I
I'm
appreciate it.
yeah, I'm glad that I had the time to chat.
Awesome. Well, we'll have to get you back on here sometime. Maybe talk about your Olympic gold in Greco.
Yeah, for sure.
All
Sounds good.
right. Sounds good. Talk to you later.
All right, see ya.